It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, everybody? You are, in fact, in the Sun Cruiser Studio. I'm Tom Moser, and you are here on another night in the Mountain West, Wednesday night, the 14th of January. Just a 2-game set, 2 good games, 4 good teams. We got 1 good game. The other one, the early game, was not super. But thank you all for being here. We got some chat going on already. Get to some comments in a little bit. A lot to get to, despite the fact that we only had 2 live games tonight. I got a lot of other things to discuss. Hopefully we'll get some interaction with you guys to what happened tonight, maybe a little bit of last night, maybe moving forward a little bit. Let me do this early, mix it up. I've been doing the sponsor late in the end of the show. Let's get Sun Cruiser on here at the start of the show. One of the sponsors here, so go support Sun Cruiser. Some good product from them. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show at Mountain West BNN. The link is in my bio on Twitter. And please watch through there, subscribe. Just a little click of the button to subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's growing. We're trying to keep it growing, and it's off and running. I think it's doing pretty good. Heard some positive feedback, hearing things all the time, and I'm enjoying it. And I know a fair amount of you are as well. So let's keep that going. Get the subscription on there. Watch through the YouTube channel. All that other good stuff. Okay, now some programming stuff. Wednesday here, we were here last night, so back to back. Don't forget, Friday night, it's just a solo, and it involves Boise. So much like last week, I will not be here Friday night post-game with that show. We'll let BJ do the Boise post-game show from Extra Mile on Friday night. Saturday, I will be here. Now, it's an earlier start, as I talked about a little bit last night. So just as soon as the game goes final, Viejas between the Aztecs and the Lobos, I'll be here. So hoping for a nice large audience on Saturday Night Live to recap that full day. We'll worry about next week later. I haven't even looked that far ahead. I just wanted to get through this week. So excited to talk about what we watched here in these two games. So we'll go in that order. I will talk about the game that we just watched. It's top of mind for everybody out there. Craig, to answer your question, how many Sun Cruisers Wednesday night versus Saturday night? Certainly none on a school night. I could, but my sleep patterns are not the strongest, so that's the last thing I need. If I'm only going to have two, they don't help me go to sleep, really. They keep me up. I'm already wired, as you can tell, from watching the games and then interacting on here and then on social media. So it's difficult for me to just kind of zonk out despite the fact that it's late and I'm tired. So we'll save those for the weekend. Yes, let me get to some of these other things. I know, as BJ said the other night, when she will not know what to do when I'm not watching action late at night. It'll be, I'll be off on here for a while. But, yeah, it will be different not having the games go on until midnight. So certainly an interesting schedule there. But BJ is enjoying a Sun Cruiser back in Boise. He needed a few after last night's game. So, yeah, because I signed off with about 4 to go, largely because I was done with the material and the game ran long. There were a lot of whistles, and I got off early, and I didn't get to watch the finish with you guys on here. So I will go back and kind of talk about that a little bit later, what took place at the end of that game. But let's get to the one that we just watched here. One of the two undefeateds remaining. Of course, Utah State freshly into the top 25, which is always nice for a team in our conference, but it always comes with like added pressure for whatever reason, right? Not just with Mountain West teams. It happens with all kind of teams because, look, you've just gotten in. You have a little bit of an extra target on your back. For you to get in the first place means you have to have likely won several games in a row and you're playing good basketball. So, of course, that's the case with Utah State, but Power 4 teams that get in all the time and sneak in a 22, 23, 24 spot, they've won 4 in a row, 5 of 6, and you play good teams, and then you lose the next game, and everybody's like, well, man, why did they lose that game? Well, because it's difficult to keep winning games against good competition. And so Utah State was up against it tonight. Nevada, as Steve said, we got a couple comments on this. Where was it? The Nevada had a good game plan, sloppy little bit. I mean, listen, they did have a good game plan. And the thing is, as I said, I put one of those Nevada's playing to shut down the front runner for Mountain West Player of the Year. Work. Too bad the guy in second place also plays for the Aggies. Interesting comment from Spencer right there. Yeah, look, if you have a team that has Collins on it and Falslev's your backup, I mean, that's a pretty good Batman and Robin. It's almost like 2 years ago when they had Great Osabor and Darius Brown. It's difficult for teams to shut one of those guys off, let alone two of them. But, the first half was played at a pretty slow pace. We saw zone. You knew you'd see Calhoun mixing it up a little bit. Alford has done that now lately. He did it against Wyoming on Saturday, did it tonight where he sprinkled some zone in. And a 29-23 game at the half really kind of played to Nevada's pace, for me, what they wanted to do. And it was only, for them to be down by 6 seemed like a lot because they had the lead. And, I don't want to say you can't because you can, but it's difficult to nitpick like every play, right? But there's sequences in games that flip things around. And, I won't blame him because the guy played fantastic, but there was a sequence where Nevada had a 2-point lead, and I think Price missed like a bunny inside. And look, it was tough sledding inside all night for Nevada. Price is a workhorse. I mean, he absolutely maxes out what he can do. And he was going, it seemed like Utah State was, if you've ever coached, you use certain props sometimes at practice to like make it difficult to get shots up, right? Whether it's a broom or something to do different drills for rebounding or finishing inside. It seemed like Utah State's defenders were waving things around because Nevada could not finish inside. But anyway, Nevada had a 2-point lead. Price had a bunny inside, misses it to go up 4, and then Templin, of all people, who can shoot it, but you're not going to expect him to make a 3. He comes down and hits a 3. 5-point swing, Utah State takes the lead. Now, in a game where there's 50, 100 plus possessions, you're going to say, well, that was only one possession. Coaches will look past that stuff. But in a game like this, when you're the underdog, those things matter. They add up. There was another one a couple minutes later, and I'm rooting for a competitive game, right? So I'm thinking of these things in my head as they're playing out, and I'm like, that stuff bites them later. Like, you don't think about it as much because it took place with 5 minutes to go in the first half. And it doesn't matter in theory as much as a play that happens with 4 minutes left in the game. But those things count the same on a scoreboard, right? It's a missed opportunity, and then it's a bucket at the other end, and you can't give those things up when your opponent is playing the way Utah State is. Because I thought Nevada played good basketball, right? I mean, they slowed the pace down. They did a great start to the second half. And really, I thought their first shot defense was pretty good too. And their half-court defense was good. I don't know how. Let me fire the stats up here quickly and see what it says. The second chance points, fast break points, 15 for Utah State. I honestly thought they had more. I distinctly remember 3 or 4 like live ball turnovers by Nevada that led to free buckets for the Aggies, and you can't give those up. There was one out of a timeout then. Alford called timeout, or maybe it was the under 4 in the first half, and he just threw it right away from under the basket for a layup. You can't give those up. When you're struggling for buckets and it's a game 23-21, you can't do that. And it just drastically reduces your opportunity to win a basketball game. Nevada only shot 34%, so Calhoun mixing some defenses up, and a combination of that and the outstanding interior defense. They only shoot 34%. Look at the 3-point shooting was good for Nevada. I like them, the fact that they only took 16 because they're not a great shooting team. They didn't get to the line as much as they would have liked to. They got out free throwed by the Aggies. 14 turnovers. I mean, look, there was good defense in there by Utah State. There was good defense in there by both teams. But Falslev with a monster night, 26. He had 5 rebounds and 3 assists. This stat sheet does not give me the steals, individual steals. I do see 9 as a team for the Aggies and 8 blocks. Again, it looked like they had 6 defenders on the floor a lot. Camper with 14, Price 13, Comer 11. Rollison got 17 minutes tonight. You could just tell he wasn't engaged the way he was a few weeks ago. 4 points, 1 for 5. Bailey now, he's like fallen out of favor. It's just so odd the way that Alford's rotations work. Like, Bailey was a starter all throughout, and now he gets 5 minutes tonight. He takes 1 shot. So I don't know if he hasn't been practicing well. Not sure what's going on there. In fact, I thought, despite the fact that he was only 2 for 7, I thought Peyton White was one of the better players tonight for Nevada. He got 16 minutes. Maybe there was an opportunity to find him a few more minutes in there. But, I mean, look, the stat sheet's not going to tell you a ton about the game, okay? Both teams played well. It was an entertaining second half, back and forth. And as I tweet, I didn't send many tweets out, but just like that, bam, it's a 2-possession game. The Pack are hanging in, they're creeping, they're just doing what they want to do, like Alford's game plan. And then just like that, it's 5-7-0 in a minute and a half. You got to call timeout, and you're down double figures, and the game's basically over. So that's why, like, you got to maximize every possession in these games. And when you don't, like, your chance of pulling an upset, it just goes down. Like, when you're the more talented team, if Nevada's playing a team in the bottom half of the conference, yeah, you can get away with that stuff like they did against Fresno, right? They had some of those breakdowns. They pulled it out at the end. They're not playing Fresno tonight, right? Like we discussed before. I mean, Utah State's not going to lose many games in the conference. Like, I'm not overreacting here like some people are saying they're going to go 20-0 because they were in a dogfight tonight. But they're not going to lose many games. So, I mean, you can't squander opportunities like that. They're a good team. Alford, yes. Game plan solid. Their guys executed well. They made some shots. They did what they wanted to do. They just got beat by a better team tonight, and there's no shame in that, right? Let me see if I got anything else in this game here. Daniel says could have been worse for the Aggies if the Wolfpack converted more offensive boards. But you got to give credit to the Aggie defense right there, Daniel, right? I mean, they were just impossible to impede. Like, I don't know how the stats only had them for 8 blocks, because there should be an additional stat column for alterations, right? They altered, how many shots did they alter? Craig thinks that GCU can take Utah State. Of course, I'll talk about that one in a few minutes later on in the back end of the show because I won't be here Friday. John is watching from work in Lafayette, Indiana. And I guess, are you in the Eastern time zone, John? I thought parts of Indiana were in the Central time zone, which would make it 11:35 there instead of 12:35 like it is here for me. But anyway, that will be an interesting game. There's no doubt about it. Let's see what else. Aggies have so many weapons. Collins, quiet night. But, yeah, the mayor was in town. I mean, Falslev just does so many things. And this is why he garnered a lot of votes last year for player of the year or first teamer, because he just does so many things. Like that play at the end of the game that goes unnoticed. They're up 6. They miss a free throw. Nevada gets the ball. In theory, if they hit a 3, it's a one-possession game. Falslev, clean pick from behind, layup, up to 8. Basically the ball game over, right? Like not every guy knows how to make that play, okay? And he just does it. 12 offensive rebounds in the first half for Nevada, absurd amount. That is a high amount. I will say that a lot of those just simply came off of the what do people like to make fun of Angel Reese for missing her own shots and grabbing her own rebounds. That wasn't what Nevada was doing. They just couldn't finish, and it's difficult to grab rebounds a lot when you're out of position and it's a block or it's an air ball because it's not like a standard bounce and rebound. And that's how they got a lot of those rebounds, but they didn't convert on it. So, let's see. BJ says Utah's the real deal, almost unbeatable in that building. 100%. I mean, again, if I had to put their over-under up on wins in the conference, I guess I would put it at 9. People like to make numbers on half points, so whatever. Like, I don't know if you can make it 9.5. It's certainly possible to have a slip up, but they're not going to lose 2 games at home. I wouldn't think anyway at all. The defensive mix-up was cool to watch. Look, that's what good coaches do because they're going to keep you off balance, right? Alford's been around forever, and he knows how to attack. They plan for X defense, and then when you kind of get comfortable in that, you switch to the Y defense, and then you got to make them see a different look and plan different things out. So absolutely. Richard says about as good of a 9-point loss as I've seen. Convert a few of those 16 offensive rebounds. Nevada's right there. Yeah, look, I don't think there's anything to be not ashamed isn't the right word, but disappointed about if you're Nevada. Yeah, you didn't come away with the win. You now got 2 conference losses. It's clear that we've got a top 3. I mean, everybody should be able to see now that there's a clear top 3 in the conference, right? We all know. And I mean, most people would have Utah State number 1, and I probably San Diego State 2 and New Mexico 3. That's a pretty close number, right, or mark right there for me, 2-3. And it doesn't really matter what you do because they're going to play in 3 days. So we'll get an answer. Clearly, the Aztecs will have the edge being at home. But, I mean, New Mexico's not going to care about that. They're going to go in there and try to execute and expect to win the game. But good to hear, John. Sun Cruiser is the new game day drink. It's a very good drink. I never had it until BJ introduced me to it. It's fantastic. Craig, Nevada looked great, 75% of the court. Yeah. Look, again, I don't say any – BJ said that's Jamin's dad. Wow. Okay, well, impressive. Thanks for being here. Didn't know that he was from West Lafayette, Indiana. I should have done my homework on that. Anyway, so look, I think again, you don't have to hang your head if you are a Nevada fan, right? You don't want to be dropping too many more games. You kind of know where you are, what's realistic for you moving forward. Your at-large possibility is likely 5% at this point. You want to get that top 4 seed. Just because the top 3 teams are the top 3 teams right now doesn't mean they'll stay there, right? But regardless, whoever you are, you want to get that 4 seed so you can sit out Wednesday, have to play or get to play a team on Thursday who had to play on Wednesday. And, that's that. A lot of games ago, and so we got a lot of stuff to do. So, before we can get to that. But, so we talk about Spencer says we talk about team tackling in football. Seems like Utah State was team rebounding tonight. 2 Aggies jumping for each rebound. It's a good point. Yeah, you want a team rebound, okay? It's funny, especially when you're playing zone, Spencer, and Utah State's, whether it's their matchup zone or they're switching man-to-man, they have zone principles. When you're in a zone defense, it's difficult to rebound because you don't really have a guy, right? You have a zone. You're in a zone, and the opposing coaches, when you're in a zone, they will stress oftentimes, hammer the glass, find a seam, find a gap on the floor, get to it, because there's going to be opportunities for offensive rebounds, because oftentimes the players are just kind of looking around. Now, at this level, you don't, see as many guys trying to find guys to box out, right? This isn't high school. It's not Division III basketball. These guys are elite athletes, especially at this level in our conference. They're 6'7" to 6'10", 6'6", and they can leap. So, but you don't box out. You got guys crashing in. A lot of the shots are taken from deep. Deep shots mean long rebounds, and so it's difficult to rebound out of the zone. So you got to get everybody rebounding, team rebounding, right? So yes, all right, John, you are in the Eastern time zone. I usually pretty good with that stuff. 12:36 here, and so that was a few minutes ago for me too. I usually pretty good with that stuff. Utah State does not have 21 straight home wins like the Lobos. Yeah, it will be interesting by the time we get to the end of the conference season here, if both of those two teams can run the table at home. I would venture to say they don't. There's too many good teams and well-coached teams and teams that have the potential to knock somebody off on a given night that I don't think both will run through undefeated. Bark says, I don't think New Mexico separated themselves from Nevada yet. They have a chance to do it this weekend. I mean, listen, that's fine for you to think that. I've been impressed with how they played, and I'm not going to say it was slow to come around to it, but they have certainly improved by leaps and bounds. Now, Nevada's a very good team, don't get me wrong. I just think that New Mexico has another option or two. And, look, let's face it, as I've talked about several times on here, and I did the same thing with Sprinkle 2 years ago, they just have that it factor right now with Olin. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they're going to win every single game. But, I will talk about Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn in a minute. Did not know he was from Lafayette. I did know that he started he was at Illinois, and so that makes sense. But, Trav, the Pack did great on the boards, but none of the guards or bench shot well enough. Yeah, they don't have a consistent shooter. They're not the only team in the conference either that does not have a consistent shooter, trust me. Here's an interesting one that I will agree with, Steve. There's no coincidence here that Alford coaches like Bobby Knight, right? He doesn't quite have the outburst that Bobby did, and you can't get away with that stuff anymore today. But, yeah, the kids today have a hard time with it, and the doghouse will be full of times. Excellent point. There's no doubt about it. Daniel says Utah State usually drops a home loss. This could be a year we don't. Yeah, I mean, look, you've already played in theory. Now, CSU's kind of tailed off a little bit, but you've already played down Nevada and CSU, so you still got to play New Mexico, San Diego State. You'll have a difficult one, maybe, or two somewhere else in there. If that's Trone, it's good to see you, buddy. Aztec breakdown, big win for the Aztecs. We'll get to that in 2 minutes because the last thing I wanted to say was it's funny how stuff works because we'll talk about UNLV in a minute. But I when it went to halftime of this game, I don't do this often because it was a close game and I knew the timing was going to work out. I put the end of the North Carolina-Stanford game on, and it was in Stanford, and they beat North Carolina tonight. Now, North Carolina, I don't know what they were ranked, like top 15 or whatever it was. That's a team that UNLV beat, okay? Don't ask me how. Well, I shouldn't say that because we know that they have the talent to do it on a given night. They beat Stanford at Stanford in the very same building tonight that Stanford just beat North Carolina. So, UNLV can go. Will they? I doubtful, but they could go to the pit and beat the Lobos. They've done it before in the last few years when they haven't had a team as good as New Mexico has. They could go to the Spectrum and beat the Aggies. Now, am I forecasting that? Probably not. They'll be double-digit underdogs in both of those games, but it's possible. They've won at Stanford. They've won at Memphis. Those are two of the better. Now, I know Memphis hasn't been quite what they have in the past, but, I mean, look, those are really good wins. So I think let's not, Grand Canyon's got the potential to do things. So there's a lot of games that are going to be difficult here. Richard Duke is in a 3-point game with Cal. Yeah, look, it's tough to travel for those ACC teams. It's funny. My mom's a Duke fan, and I said, what the heck are you going to do tonight? The game starts at 11. She's like, well, I'm going to record it because the game's just too late. I mean, you're making Duke and Carolina travel. We knew this was going to happen when the conference is fractured like this, but they're traveling from the East Coast all the way out west. What do you expect, right? This is the stuff you expect. But, that's why it's difficult to play on the road in college basketball. Craig says Jake Call can't visit Logan soon enough. Well, the Herd, I think, Craig, will have something for Jake Hall, although he's been impressive. There's no doubt about it. And Jer says UNLV plays their best on the road in great environments. Timothy, that is right. They do not play in the pit this year. That's disappointing. That will be one of the better rivalries next year moving forward in the Mountain West. That's disappointing that they don't play. And yes, Steve, we know UNLV does not play as a team very often this year. There's no doubt about it. Braden asks who is in contention for Mountain West Conference Player of the Year with Falslove and MJ Collins. I mean, look, for me, right, I don't know how the voters will go, but you have to take guys from the three teams that are at the top right now. If for New Mexico, I like, who are their better players? Bouillon and Hall, right? And I just don't think that they're quite where they're not. They're not where Falslove and Collins are. If you look at San Diego State, who has been their most consistent player? It's been BJ Davis. He doesn't even start. So that's a heck of a question. Who is in contention for Conference Player of the Year other than Falslove and Collins? Somebody needs to step up. Now, I'll get to the Aztecs in 30 seconds because they had some candidates tonight, right? But it just hasn't been there. Fortunately, we have 3 quarters of the conference season left, so somebody may emerge. Otherwise, it might be a 1-2 finish for the Aggies. But we got a long way to go. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's get to the other one, and I did not put this on. I wanted to put this on there earlier while I was doing it, as the final was 71-62. I just put that on here as I came on. But the other game then, the early game, and look, I said this after the game, right? This was, for me, the most complete 40-minute game that the Aztecs have played all year. I'm not counting the non-D1 game, and hate to say it, I'm not even counting the Air Force game, okay? I don't really kind of remember the full game against Oregon. Oregon's been massively, massively disappointing this year. I don't even know if they're 500. They have zero chance at an at-large. I'm not sure what their metrics are anymore. They have not been very good. I know one of their guards is out, I think Shellstat or whoever it is, but they have not been very good, and that certainly is not helping the Aztecs profile. But this was a complete win from start to finish. I thought it was kind of funny, and Dutcher took it very well. If you didn't see it before the game, Sonny gives Dutcher a can of refueling for the altitude, right? Kind of like a ha-ha joke. I'm sure it was a little bit of a jab that Sundance was taking at the Aztecs, but Dutcher took it well because he's a good sport and he's got class. And so that was nice because it was kind of a funny moment, lighthearted moment, because we know, as I said last night, you probably will not get San Diego State to visit Laramie again. And it's funny. I never really got into it, but I don't know why such a hullabaloo about like the program, whether it comes from the staff, the players, the fans, the media, whoever it is that cover the team, why it's such an issue to have to go play there. Is it inconvenient? I'm sure. Is the weather bad? Yes. Is there altitude? Yes. Guess what? It's a road game in conference play. We're not rolling out the red carpet here and giving you guys freaking spa treatment to come play anywhere. Like Penn State football had an advantage for 30 years in the 70s, 80s, and 90s and 2000s because there was no airport within an hour and a half. You had to fly into Harrisburg and drive up through back roads and get there and stay 30 minutes out of town, and people used to hate it. I don't understand. It's not supposed to be convenient for you to go play a road game like this. You think Alabama football enjoys having to go to Starkville to play Mississippi State? No, it's an advantage for the home team. So I don't get why there's such credence given to that narrative and dialogue about all that. I just don't understand it, right? Varg says it's inconvenient to go to. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole conference thing here to go there where they're going to places like Corvallis and Pullman. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. No way it was a jab. Yeah, look, Sundance hasn't been there for a lot of that. I mean, Sundance, look, he's a smart guy. He fully knows that the Aztecs own Wyoming. They haven't lost to him in years, right? I'm fully aware of that. Maybe it wasn't a jab. I think it was just he was trying to be funny and make light of the moment, and they all got a good laugh out of it, and there was nothing wrong with that at all. I don't think there was any harm in that. Nobody took it that way, so that was certainly good. Let's see. None of these teams have played yet. We're going to fight. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knows, right? We can only talk about what we've seen so far. John, thank you. Appreciate your comment there, liking the insight. And so at this point, it's interesting that Jazz says that Jake Hall, freshman of the year. There are countless freshmen Yes, Hall probably right now is the leader in the clubhouse, and that's because Bouillon has missed some time, and because like other guys like Perryman and El Amin are overshadowed by studs like Collins and Falslev. Hall has been probably the most consistent guy. He's improved and like added stuff to his repertoire. It's incredible. So I'm very impressed with him, and I did not see that coming. I'll be honest, right? He doesn't get in the layup line and wow you and make you think that the guy's going to light you up for 20, but he does. So he probably is leading right now for the freshman year. But again, long way to go. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Daniel. It's just how it is. Good teams learn how to deal with it. Yeah, I just don't understand it, and enough of that. But anyway, as for the game itself, right, Steve says the Aztecs executed. Their movement looked smooth. Their passes were crisp. Looked like a flash of the pass. I want to address their defense first, okay? And I want to talk about this, and I brought up this topic before, okay? Because I do not think that Wyoming is a good shooting team, okay? If you just watch, forget about the stats for a minute, right? Forget about the stats for a minute. I'm going to put the stats on the screen. Forget about the numbers for a minute, what the numbers say. They shot 10 for 34 on threes tonight, and 2 or 3 of those makes were in the last couple minutes. I mean, the game was decided for much of the second half, but 2 or 3 of those makes were very late, like in almost garbage time. They were 7 for 29 for a long period, which is like less than 25%. Even making a few at the end, they only shot 29%. But here's the thing I want to look at. Look at over here at the numbers. 34 of their 55 attempts from the field were threes. That's about close to 2/3, okay? To me, that is way too many. And I had a back and forth, and Alex Taylor, who does a good job covering the Cowboys for YO Sports, he saw my comment when I said, look, the Aztecs are starting to get separation here. Let me take this off. The Aztecs are starting to get separation here. They're forcing the Cowboys into too many threes. And for me, I'm thinking, okay, like this is a product of Dutcher's game plan and the fact that Wyoming cannot penetrate and they can't break through the wall of the Aztecs half-court D, right? And then Alex kind of said to me, I've asked Sundance about this, and he, without kind of admitting, knowing that he's, shorthanded or outmatched or outmanned, if you will, kind of says, I encourage our guys to shoot more threes against teams that are more powerful than us because 3 is greater than 2, and he's an analytics guy. Again, we love Sundance here. BJ and I had him on a week ago. He knows he's forgot, as the old quote is, he's forgotten more about basketball than I know, right? I would not play it that way. And this is what I was saying before. Forget about the numbers. Watch the guys shoot. Watch their guys shoot. Even Meyer, who's a fantastic player, he will probably be, do they even have first team all freshman? He's had a very good year. Watching him shoot threes, it doesn't look pure coming off his hand, right? You watch a guy like Carmichael shoot last night, you could tell he's a shooter. Now, does he make every shot? Of course not. But he's got good form, and I like the way he shoots. Meyer, it's almost like, he can make a shot, but it just doesn't look like he's muscle memory, taking thousands of shots in practice. And he's actually one of the better ones. Like the other one at Harrico, 13, the lefty, man, he's off balance. He just doesn't have good form. He doesn't land straight. He doesn't go straight up and down. I'm far from a shot doctor, but I watch Reese Waters take shots, and man, I've been critical of his shot selection, but that guy, he's as close to like an NBA shooter as we have in the league with his body weight, with his body control, with his one dribble pull up. The commentator tonight, great comparison, said he was like Rip Hamilton. I kind of agree. Really smooth, like one dribble rip and pull up, and he's up and down. He's got good rhythm, good follow through, and he's very rarely off to the side. It's either short or long, and that's from good form, right? So I don't see that from Wyoming. And it's like, why are you having guys who aren't great shooters fire 3 after 3 after 3? So my thought was that, like, look, the Aztecs D, they were getting kind of critiqued, I guess, in the first half of the season, and maybe rightly so. But I heard on another show that I watched, a national show somewhere, that if you take out the stats from the Michigan game when they got run off the floor by one of the 5 best teams in the country, their defensive stats for the season actually are pretty solid. Okay. Now, one game, and it was at that point, this may have been a week or two ago, there were fewer games. So one game means more in the overall sample than it does now when they played 15 games. But like you take that game out, and their defensive stats, they may not be like 3 years ago or 6 years ago, Aztec-like defensively, but they're not as bad as kind of what we were picking at 2 or 3 weeks ago when we're saying, yeah, they just don't have that whatever, okay? The other thing that I've been critical of is their lack of a killer instinct. And tonight they put the hammer down for 40 minutes, all right? Because Wyoming, they'll keep playing. Now, some people said, well, they had a 24-point lead, and then with 2 minutes to go, Wyoming, a couple threes. That happens. That's basketball, right? I know in a perfect world, you stretch it out, you win by 28. But look, I think the point spread for the game was 1 or 2. You go on the road and win by 17 when you're a 1 or 2 point favorite. The analytics will be just fine with a 17-point win. Could it be slightly better if they would have won by 23 or 26? Sure. But you'll take a 17-point win. They kept the throttle down. They didn't let up. There was no chance Wyoming was coming back in the game, and that's a good thing to see because I've been critical of that, and, as I always am, I think I'm right when I say things. Doesn't mean I always am. But, look, that was maybe a point of emphasis from Dutcher. Maybe the guys took it upon themselves to do it. Now, you did also see at the end of the game, you saw Bird kind of wincing in pain and then sit the last 3 minutes with a thumb on his non-shooting hand. So we'll see if that has any impact come Saturday. Newman left the game with an injury. That doesn't really concern me much. Again, as I pointed out, Dutcher's got plenty of guys to use. That's why the depth that Sonny has on his Wyoming roster didn't come into play tonight because the Aztecs can match their depth. So that really wasn't a factor. And with Newman, Newman's just another guy. Can they survive without Newman? 100%. If they don't have Bird on Saturday night, it's probably a different issue, right? That they need him, and it's his non-shooting hand. I'm sure if he can get an injection or so, wrap it up or whatever they're going to do, and barring something, he'll be ready to go. And they need him, but he has played better. And this is little stuff. I think like most people don't even notice this. Because I always notice little weird things. Right before he got banged up, there's 2 or 3 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left. They're up by 20. There's a 2-on-1, and he throws a bounce pass on the break. I don't remember who it was to. Maybe it was to DeGorville or Compton. I don't even know who it was to. But the point is, in the past, like up until a week or two ago, last year, earlier on this year, there's no doubt in my mind, 100%, he would have thrown that up for an alley-oop to try to whatever, okay? And he didn't. He threw a simple bounce pass. And I don't even remember if they scored, but I was like, wow, okay. And so, that's little baby steps, right? Like I when I call people out for stuff, I like to think I'm fair and then credit them, when they do the opposite thing, right? It's like I tell my kids at school, I'm gonna get on you when you're acting like a clown in class, but I'll praise you when you answer a question and bring something thoughtful to the discussion. So I'm critical of Bird when I think he doesn't play the right way. And, this was a play that had zero impact in the game, but it showed a little bit of maturity. So I will take that as a good sign for the Aztecs moving forward. Let me get back to the chat here because I've had a lot going on in here, especially, as we build up to that big game between the Aztecs and the Lobos on Saturday. Trying to get down to Vegas for the Mountain West tournament. That's certainly, somebody asked me the other day, I said, it's certainly better than a fair chance at this point. All right. We're working on that. I agree with that. Kay Wilson, the depth, although I will say, Harrington, he's getting good minutes and he's a good player and he'll continue to be a good player. He hasn't really, stepped forward, and it's difficult when they have as many guys as they do, to showcase, full steam, I guess. You're right. He certainly needs more of an opportunity, and there's just too many alpha guys on that team. John's from the original Big Ten country. I like that. Yeah, you don't like the new alignment. Yeah, I appreciate that, John. I'm part of that new alignment. Remember, I remember going to Penn State games when they were not in the Big Ten, and then they joined the Big Ten, and that kind of ruined it, and all that stuff. But anyway, Yeah, so Steve's right. And Steve didn't talk about the defense because it was Wyoming. Dutch's defense is designed for that type of offense. Yeah, I mean, look, it was just a bad matchup. In hindsight's 2020. Maybe should have known that beforehand. Tim, I'll agree with you that the records of the top three are inflated because they haven't played each other. I mean, obviously, that's why two of them are undefeated, and New Mexico's only loss was up at Boise when the Broncos were playing good basketball because they haven't played each other. But I think it's foolish to say that that's the only reason that their records are inflated. They're playing good basketball, okay? Utah State's metrics haven't, and same with the Lobos, their metrics have been on the rise big time because they're playing good basketball. And if you play bad teams and win by 5, your metrics don't go up. They're playing good basketball. Larry wants to know if the Lobos will keep it close on Saturday. I do think they will. Of course, I've been wrong all plenty of stuff here. Jazz, what are your thoughts? Let me finish up on this game, and then I will get to it. Aztecs D up to 27th in Ken Palm. Yeah, that's pretty darn good, right? Especially for a group that was much maligned earlier on, okay? Let's see. Yeah, that is an interesting subplot there, Jazz, that Jake and Olin and Jake and Hal, although he probably won't play, come from San Diego, right? You see San Diego, a couple of them were committed there. Hal played there. But, I don't know if we'll see Hal Saturday, and maybe, I don't know if much will be with that. But anyway, let's see. New Mexico hung with a top 10 team. I'm assuming that's Nebraska. I don't even know what Nebraska's ranked. And yeah, look, that Nebraska game, it's funny. They look so bad in the first half of that game. Nebraska, I believe, is still undefeated. They just keep winning and winning and winning, and they're a pretty darn good team. So there's no shame in that loss either, of course. Okay. Let's see. Olin was at San Diego. The chance to prove that maybe he was the best coach in San Diego. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to try, right? I mean, people are already talking about him replacing Dutcher when Dutcher leaves in a few years. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. I don't think those two teams ever. San Diego State played Cal State first game last year. That's right. It was a very close game, and I'll admit that I knew who he was, but I was not super familiar with Olin at that point. Only later on in the season when they beat Utah State did I fully understand. Wow, I think Timothy asked how they did. I'm pretty sure it was like a 1-possession game. I think they took it right down to the wire. Anyway, so look. So Gwath got nicked up early on. It's funny, the footage did not carry over, so we didn't see the first minute and a half of the 2 minutes of the game because the Wyoming game. It was the VCU game. The VCU game ran late, so we didn't see the first 2 minutes on TV, and it comes on, and Gwath's not on the floor. So I'm like, did they not start him again? Like, he just played well on Saturday. What's going on here? Turns out he got banged up, knee to knee. And then he came back in a little later and he looked pretty solid. Maybe Dutch just felt like he didn't really need to burn him for as much as he did. If we look back at the stats here for another minute, he got 18 minutes, and Dutcher spread the minutes out evenly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 guys played between 10 and 24 minutes. That's pretty balanced. BJ Davis led with 24 minutes. Dixon, Waters, and Bird with 23 each. Harrington with 22. So, and Gwath with 18. It looked pretty smooth. I mean, his 3-point jumper too. I don't watch I don't watch any NBA, so I can't really compare his jump shot to anybody. I want to say like Durant, but that tells you how old I am because I remember Durant at Texas in college, like being like one of the first 6'10", 6'11" big guys that could stretch the floor and have a really smooth stroke from the outside like Gwath does. Because man, that he just shoots it and he doesn't get a lot of lift off the floor. But man, he was pretty impressive. So I like his shot. I like what he brings to the table. He looks a lot better, and they do as a team. And there's no coincidence here that the three big guns are all playing better, and they've started around into form here. So, Sean, we talked about the Nevada game in the first 20 minutes, so you might have to go back and listen in the beginning of the show to get your Nevada fill, because I started with that one. So that's why we're still on the San Diego State game. But I will move off of that one because I'm already 40 minutes in here. And I want to spend 5 minutes on the finish last night because I didn't get to talk about it. Boise had taken a lead, and then a couple things. I don't really talk about the game a lot other than Passner's decision to not foul. I couldn't believe he did that. Especially after there was a timeout. I'm pretty sure he called the timeout. There was like 8 seconds left, and he didn't foul. I couldn't believe he did it. He gave Boise a lifeline, and Boise frittered it away in overtime. But I mean, good execution by the Broncos on the play to get the 3 for Fielder. He knocks it down, and we go overtime. But man, I don't understand how you cannot foul there. I really don't. I know everybody has their own view on this, and that we had that ridiculous Cal Notre Dame play from like 2 weeks ago, but like that was due to a horrible call by the official. That guy probably won't work another big game for 3 weeks. Okay. And like that stuff that happens like once every 5 years. Same thing with missing a free throw and tapping it out for a 3. That stuff happens like once every 3 years. You need A, B, and C to all happen for you to lose. I just don't get it, and yes, they won the game, and so it didn't end up mattering, but I couldn't believe that they didn't foul right there. And so again, that's their decision. And, but I just, in that situation, like every situation is different. If there's 3 seconds and they're going to inbound and shoot it, I get it. But there's 8 seconds. They dribble it up the floor, and I don't even remember who it was anymore. If it was Andrews, if it was NATO, he literally turned his back to the basket for the handoff to keep the play going. Like there's a prime opportunity right there to just slap his hand or his back and take a foul. I just don't understand it. But again, I'm sitting here talking at 1 a.m, not coaching anymore, and these guys are. So I guess we'll just go with what they do. But anyway, in overtime, I guess Andrews was cramping. NATO didn't have his best game. Obviously, we know Buchanan was out, and that limited them from the start. And Carmichael, after a hot start, kind of cooled off, and they just didn't have enough weapons last night. So John says in the post game he didn't foul because he was scared they would give up a rebound on a missed free throw and then a game-winning 3. Makes no sense. I mean, yeah, it's like I'm also worried about like my food being bad because the guy at the deli didn't wash his hands, or they didn't, like we're playing like 6 degrees of what ifs here. I just don't understand it. Of course coaches say things. It is, that's fine. Like they have their own philosophies and things. Whatever. But anyway, as for you, Steve, up 3, you foul. I agree. So too. You're kind with these comments. I try. I don't know. Anyway. So as for the discussion after the fact, right? Like, let's talk about the big narrative here about Leon not returning next year. I honestly think, okay, and I have no inside information on this, they could finish the season with 3 more wins, okay, and I don't think they will. They could go 3 and whatever the rest of the way out and finish 12-20, and Leon will return next year as head coach, and he's earned that, okay? I understand, and I talked about this the other day, I think. I understand the knee-jerk reactions all the time to everything, and, guys get whatever. And I'm not even referencing or bringing into play the buyout. I think BJ said today it's 4.7 million, right? And I'm not even talking about that. Forget about the buyout. If there was no buyout, he's still not getting fired. He's not. Now, if he decides in 2 months that he doesn't want to do this anymore, he doesn't have any sons on the roster, he's done everything he could, he's maxed out, then he could walk away. Fine. Yes, I get it, right? But under no circumstances for on-court play is he getting let go, all right? Nor should he, all right? He has earned a down year. And I mentioned this the other day. I always look for parallels. I said it before last night's game. They could be just like Nevada last year, right? Did it mean that Alford was a bad coach? No. Look at what they're doing this year. They bounced back. Maybe it was just not a great group of players mixing together for Nevada. Maybe that's the case here with Boise. I don't know. But Leon didn't forget how to coach overnight, and he's not going to lose his job. Now, if they do finish 500, which will be disappointing, there's no way around it. It's been disappointing right so far, okay? They especially the way the last 2 weeks have played out. There's no way around that. But he's earned another year. Now, if it finishes this way, up and down on a seesaw, 500, all that stuff, or largely any other way, to start next year, he'll be on the proverbial hot seat maybe a little bit, if you will, right? First year in a new conference, you got to step up your game, all those narratives, right? Then if the same thing happens next year, then the heat will crank up, and then you'll have to see what happens. Maybe the buyout drops, Maybe there's a conversation that's had. Maybe that's the end of the road. Okay. But we're talking a whole 14 months away and a whole nother set of games that has to go not their way. Okay. Clearly something is amiss this year, and it happens. Okay. He did not forget how to coach. He did not mail it in. They were within an erroneous decision out of bounds with 8 seconds left in Viejas 12 days ago, 11 days ago, of winning that game and being 2-1 in the conference. Okay. Now, if my aunt, as I always said, had this, then this. You can't do the ifs. But, yes, have they kind of gone in the shell a little bit since then? They did, right? Not great efforts against GCU and not great efforts against Utah State. Can't punish them for that. That team's loaded. But they didn't show well in that game, and certainly not good last night against a team that is very erratic, to be nice, okay? Steve says, that's a good comment. Steve says Leon's a good coach. Not everyone can be coached, okay? Yeah. So, I mean, I just, Aztec Mike, overrated, never won an NCAA tournament game. Fisher and Dutcher are the goats of the Mountain West, and it's not close. Well, no, but two things can be true here, Mike. They are the goats, right? I mean, they've advanced the furthest. They've gotten their program to the best place in the conference. Utah State's nipping at their heels here lately. Okay, again, the Aztecs did make a Sweet 16 2 years ago again, but the Aggies program, the way that they've been consistent here lately, certainly running up there, right? But I think Leon, listen, and I wasn't around following it back then, but BJ and Bronco fans, longtime Bronco fans, would know this a lot better than some of us in here. The program was a nothing before Leon got there. I think there was a BJ retweeted a tweet, I think, from Nathan today that showed maybe the metrics before Leon and since Leon, okay? And it's not even close. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on here, but I think if you're going to be disappointed, or if you're really counting on the fact that there's going to be a coaching change in 2 months, I think you're going to be disappointed. Okay. I didn't even factor the money in. You add the money in, I just don't see it. Right. I'd be stunned. Now, look, things happen. I don't know. No inside information there. Could happen, but I'd be stunned, frankly. And I would not get my hopes up if that's what you're leaning toward. Okay. He's earned a second year, as disappointing as this year has been. Good. Congrats to UNLV. They got a nice win. Gibbs Lawhorn was unconscious last night. I think he 33 at last check. Yes, Steve is a Lobo fan. I can't stand Leon, but he has my respect. And that's all that Bronco fans would probably ask for. Well, some probably don't care, but some would say that's fair. I don't expect you to like him, but he has my respect. I know plenty of people like that I've coached against and stuff, right? So, back to my thought there. I just, Gibbs Lawhorn, really good game. Jones, man, he's a freak inside. His length, his ability to block shots, much like Utah State tonight. That's not something you can teach, right? You either know how to block shots or you don't. I'm not comparing myself to these guys at all, because the level that I played at was like junior high compared to this stuff. But that was one thing. There were maybe two things on the floor that I was good at. That was one. I had very good instincts to block shots, like timing, getting off your feet with a quick jump, not swatting, not trying to do too much with it, just getting off your feet and timing it and blocking your shot. And Jones, man, his wingspan certainly helps, but he really saved the game last night with some blocks on NATO and some other alterations that he had in the second half and the overtime. So good job by the Rebels. Now, I do want to look ahead quickly to the weekend just for a few minutes. I also want to point out one thing. I very rarely on here talk non-Mountain West stuff, but I did see a rule today that I'm kind of excited about with the transfer window, in that now it's not opening until the day after. For those of you that did not see this, the day after the national championship game, the transfer window is going to open, and it will be open for 15 days only. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to commit to a school within 15 days, but you need to announce your intentions to transfer within 15 days. That's it. So April 5th or whatever the day is of the championship game, The next day, like let's just say April 6th through April 20th. That 2-week window there is the only time with which you can transfer. Now, rosters, yeah, they won't be filled till late April, late May, but this will stop the nonsense of guys like declaring at halftime of a conference tournament when they're losing and they're ready to get out, okay? So I know it may not impact some of our teams a lot and some whatever, but I think that's good for college basketball in a sport that hasn't had good direction or leadership with a lot of these rulings and decisions over the last few years. They finally got one right here. I like that. And, that's a good thing moving forward. So we don't need this nonsense with like going on when the tournament's going on and they're trying to break news about guy X from this team that got upset in the first round wants to transfer. That's ridiculous. And so now everybody has to wait until after the season's over. So that's good. I like that. All right, good. More good things like that. All right, now on to the weekend. Again, I will not be here Friday, the game Friday night. TV picked it for a reason, and at various points of the non-con here, these were two teams that I and probably others, I haven't done the rankings in a while, but I definitely had these two teams in the top 3 and 4 at different points of the non-con. And it certainly has not started that way for them, CSU and Boise. One of them is going to get a win. They both need a win big time. They're both reeling. The CSU offense has really kind of come to a grinding halt here in conference play. Shouldn't be massively surprising. Can they get on track Friday night? I mean, this is Leon's specialty, right? The staff coaching the defense up, getting a game plan ready to slow down, and there's a blueprint for it, right? You saw it by Fresno. So CSU didn't travel well. They didn't play well on the road last night. So why would you think they would do that on Friday night, right? So that's a game and a matchup there where you would expect Boise to be able to put the clamps down and shut down the high flying in a non-con, but the Rams offense. Now, will they be able to generate enough points? Don't know the status of Buchanan. Not going to ask his father for inside information on here. I feel like we'll get Nick for insider trading or something. But, if he's out, they're certainly limited, right? I would assume Andrews would be back full bore. He's, of course, not shy about getting some shots up. Will they fall? I don't know. CSU's strength is not their defense. It's been trending better. But let's be honest about it. Their only win in the last 2 weeks came against UNLV at home. So that's not a lot to write home about. And I think that, points are going to be at a premium here. So who shows up, who shoots the ball well, all of that stuff, I don't really know. But look, they both need to win big time. One of them is going to get it. One of them is going to feel even worse about their season. Of course, you have to get, as I always do, you have to give the slight edge to the Broncos because they're at home. But look, they're reeling. 4 in a row. I think it's their first 4-game losing streak in like 7 years. They're clearly not playing good basketball. Then the confidence starts to waver. But a lot of the same things can be said about CSU. They didn't look good at all last night. They played good for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. They actually took a play out of Boise's playbook, if you will, from the way that Boise kind of tried to rescue their game against San Diego State. They kind of did the same thing against Grand Canyon, where they look like heroes for a 5 to 6 minute stretch. The Rams did that last night, but they didn't sustain it. They ended up getting run out of the gym by double figures, and it was not a good effort for them. So, I don't know what to expect. Who knows, right? Flip a coin when it comes to that one, but somebody's going to get a win and feel good about themselves, at least for the time being, okay? Saturday, interesting, and it took me a while to figure out why this happened, and then it dawned on me, because I don't follow the NFL, but I do know enough to know that there's 2 games, because there's 8 teams left. So there's 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday. And I'm guessing that the games are 4:30 and 8 because Fox FS1 has the Utah State at Grand Canyon game at 2:30 my time. I'm sorry, I'm reading these times off. They're my time. So for you guys, they're different. But 4:30 and 8 Eastern on Saturday. No clue who's playing. Don't care. But those are the times, or so I'm assuming. They have Utah State Grand Canyon at 2:30 Eastern. So that'll be a 12:30 local start, early start in Phoenix. Extra day of rest for Grand Canyon, licking their chops after getting blown out in the second half last night by a very good Lobo team. Utah State, short rest, not even 72 hours. Like, you're talking Wednesday night, late game Wednesday, ends after midnight here on the East Coast, and now you got to go play an early tip on Saturday. That's a big edge right there for Grand Canyon. I'm not saying it's going to be a sleepy spot. They won't be ready to play. But if there was ever a time for them to get knocked off, it's Saturday, okay? Grand Canyon, despite the fact that they got drilled last night, they've still been playing good basketball. They've been trending up. I said that a few times now over the last week and a half. I like the way they've been playing. Do they have enough horses to beat the Aggies? Maybe, maybe not. They will need the Aggies to be asleep for the first 6 minutes and not bring their A game. But it's certainly not one that you're going to just check off right away as an automatic W for Utah State, okay? You know, I didn't really think about it from an X and O perspective yet. I mean, look, both teams are well, I shouldn't say both teams because the Aggies are just well-versed in everything. They're well-rounded. The Lopes are a defense-first team, so Drew's going to try to do it. They're going to mirror each other. They're going to try to switch defenses, throw the other team off balance. The Lopes are going to try to slow the game down, I would think, try to limit possessions, keep the Aggies from running, protect the basketball. Kind of like, you know, they just don't make enough shots. They're like several teams in our conference. They fire shots up. They don't make a lot of shots. And that's kind of been one of their Achilles heels. So they're going to have to get some good inside play. They're going to have to play good defense. If they can out-rebound the Aggies the way the Wolfpack did tonight, certainly gives them a good shot. They definitely have a puncher's chance in this game. I don't know what I'm looking at for a point spread, maybe 5-ish, I guess. Utah State, maybe a 4-5. I don't see it being higher than 6. I think that's stretching it, but a 4 or 5 point road favorite in the game. So it's not going to be a large spread. This will be kind of tightly contested here within the spread. So that's going to tell you that they have a chance to win the game. You know, I don't, nobody should expect this team to go 20-0. Now, yes, they still have 4 games left against New Mexico and San Diego State, but this is one that, you know, certainly you could see them tripping up. And then, of course, we had the late one, and I said this before, but it's fantastic. And they did it tonight, too, with the 8 o'clock game with San Diego State and Wyoming. For me, 8, I keep saying that, but 8 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, New Mexico and San Diego State. Fantastic, right? They obviously, and Jer mentioned it, they like the matchup. They have it on big time, big boy CBS later on in the season when it's at the Pit. This one in Viejas, not on big boy CBS because it's going up against the football, but it's good enough for them to put it on at 8 o'clock. So for me, which is prime time, which, you know, the TV markets base their stuff off of the Eastern time zone because that's where more than half the people in the country live, right? That's where New York is, all that stuff. So they're valuing this game and this matchup. And they probably were a little worried in November, like, oh, man, maybe we didn't make the right call. Well, they certainly did right now, right? Because, you know, the teams are both rolling right now. Again, as you have to do, you have to give the edge to the Aztecs because they're at home. And they're trending up too. Both teams are trending up. But when you're the home team, you know, I think it was 2 years ago when the Lobos went into the Pit and knocked them off. I mean, this is probably, although I don't know, probably the last game between these two in Viejas for the foreseeable future, because I think we saw back from the preseason that the Aztecs do not plan on scheduling altitude games. I can't see New Mexico being willing to go play at Viejas if they're not going to get a return game back. So if you're going to say, well, we're not scheduling altitude games, well, then you're not going to go to the Pit, right? And if you're not going to go to the Pit, then I can't see them saying, yeah, sure, we'll go play you, and then we'll play you at a neutral court. Like, I don't see that happening, right? Now, maybe they make an exception for New Mexico. I don't know, but this could be the last matchup. These two have been two of the better, like, rivals in the conference going back 20-ish years through several different coaches, more for the Lobos than the Aztecs. But obviously it's been a good rivalry. They've had many good games. I would expect another one here on Saturday. I would expect a rock fight defensive style game. I thought that would happen last night because Grand Canyon's a defensive team. It didn't matter. The Lobos just rolled. But I would kind of expect that to be the case on Saturday. Now, again, as Jared says, shame that they're willing to let the rivalry die. Look, that's just kind of what I'm reading into it. Jer also says he's taking GCU first tough road game for USU. I mean, I guess that's not counting Boise there as a tough road game. It didn't play off that way. But, okay, let's see. What else do we have here in the chat? There wasn't too much in there. I would expect a good game. I don't expect blowouts. But, look, let's see. Okay, so, I mean, yeah, I'll be surprised. I know the Aztecs are scoring. They keep saying it more than any Aztec team since the 90s or 80s. I think they may have even said. I don't think they'll get into the 80s in this game, right? This is a defensive first game. I don't know that it'll be stuck into the 60s, but I think low 70s probably wins this game. I mean, look what tonight's scores were, 74-57 and 71-62. By and large, when you get into conference play, and I know that the coaching turnover has, like, this is Olin. He did play against them last year, but a lot of times the coaches won't have played these teams before. But when there's familiarity, it leads to defensive games, right, and lower scoring games. I also just tend to think that these two teams, when all is said and done, will be led by their defenses. Yes, they have guys who can score. We've seen it with Hall. We've seen it with B.J. Davis and now Waters tonight. Can he carry it over another game? We'll see. There's weapons on the floor. I just see, a defensive game. How's it officiated? We don't know. Who will be on the call? You'd expect a pretty decent crew. I don't know. I doubt that we'll see BJ's boy Vern Harris, but who knows? We'll see. We'll have to wait for the update from Jeff Grammer probably a half an hour before tip on Saturday. So I'm trying to think of what else there is. I'll give one more plug here to Sun Cruiser, okay? 1:30 on the East Coast. Maybe it's time for a sip or two. I lose track of, man. I just keep going and going and going. I don't really give myself any time for pause when I'm not playing an interview or playing a clip or anything like that. So I don't know if that's bad or good. But anyway, look, do me a favor. The YouTube, subscribe. Watch through the YouTube. At Mountain West BNN. Scrolling down there on the bottom right now as we speak. Subscribe at Mountain West BNN. BJ says go to bed. So, yeah, I got to get up about 5.5 hours, but that's all right. I'm good to go, and I can get some good rest tomorrow night. I'll hit the sheets in a few minutes. Thank all of you for being here. Good night of action. Another night in the Mountain West. 2 solid wins from our 2 undefeated teams. 2 good efforts. Wyoming for a little bit. Nevada certainly in defeat, showed well. Friday night, check out BJ's show on his network, on his BJ Network, on his Bronco Nation News Network post-game after CSU Boise. And then make sure you're back here on Saturday earlier, as probably 5 minutes after San Diego State and New Mexico final in Viejas. So appreciate all the feedback and the interaction. Good stuff. BJ put it on there. I said it. Go subscribe. All that good stuff. Spread the word. And we'll see you guys back here Saturday on another night in the Mountain West. Good night, everybody.